Welcome, everyone. This is Michael Gibbs, and I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers. And I'm here today to help you with your cloud computing career. Perhaps you desire to become a cloud architect. Perhaps you're looking for your first solution architect job or your first enterprise architect job. Oh, I want to help you get cloud hired, cloud promoted, and live the absolute best life you absolutely desire. Personally, I've been working in technology now for over 25 years, and I've been helping others get their first tech job or get promoted in tech for more than 2 decades, and I want to help you. Before we begin, I have some really exciting things to talk about. We have a AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp beginning tomorrow, and guess what? It's absolutely free. We will have 4 or 5 days of absolute fun. I will present for 20 minutes. You will all ask questions for 20 minutes. And I promise you, it will not be PowerPoint slides and somebody hiding between slides with voiceover. Look, that wasn't even quality training in 1998, and it's definitely no good in 2022. And I will make sure by the end of this boot camp, you will understand what is AWS, how does the cloud actually work, or how does their cloud work, what these services are, and why you should use them, and how they work, not just the name of the service and how to configure that. Because I want to get you hired. And on an interview, somebody's not going to ask you which mouse button you click, I promise you that, but you know what they will ask you? What is it? How does it work, and why we should use it? And if you can tell that simply, effectively, and you not understand it, you'll know how to do the job, and you'll pass your interview. So it'll be a great experience. I'll make it real simple for you. And here's the secret to technology training when you go to it. If you ever take a course and you hear blah, 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 here's the reason. As Albert Einstein said, if you don't know the technology, if you can't explain it simply, you don't know the technology well enough. And here's what we find in many cases. That someone decided to get 10 AWS certifications, and they pass the certifications and they know nothing. And they don't even know what they don't know. And then they teach a course without this required knowledge and fundamentals, and it's too hard. So that's why we do it completely free. So please join us. Now, tomorrow, I've got a very special show for you. Another one of my students. Now, our students get hired every day. But the hardest people to get hired are the youngest students because they have the least life experience, the least perceived wisdom, et cetera, et cetera. And tomorrow night, you're going to hear from one of my amazing students, Delroy Batt. He's my student now for approximately a year. He's got his first cloud security architect job, and he is so excited. We got him his first security engineer job last year, within a couple of weeks being on our program, and he's got his first cloud security architect job now with us. Hear his story. He's an amazing kid. He's 25 years old. He's super smart. He's been with us now for about a year, and while he's got a great job, we're super excited. And hear his story of how he got his first cloud architect job, so you know how to get yours. So tomorrow night, set your reminder. Chris from my team will put the link in the description below and the chat box so you can see it. Now, on Thursday, I want you to know how to get hired. So I'm going to have another one of our free Cloud Architect How to Get Your First Tech Job webinars. I like to call it the How to Get Your First Cloud Job webinar because it sounds cool to me. And in this webinar, we'll tell you the following: how to show the hiring manager that your life experience is relevant for your new job. We will tell you what the hiring manager wants exactly in the role. So if you are exactly what the hiring manager wants, you get hired every single time. We'll tell you what to put on your resume so you can get that interview. We will teach you how to skip those HR people that are just the gateways when you don't have 20 years experience and 3 Olympic gold medals just to get your first job. We'll teach you how to bypass that. And we'll tell you what you need to know, what you need to learn so you can build the absolute best cloud computing career. So hope, can't wait to do that. That's on Thursday. And one last thing that we're doing for you. They looked at the last economic information, and we see that inflation is really high. And we know inflation makes people struggle to afford things in life. So temporarily, we dropped the price by an additional 10%. So we currently have 30% off using coupon code potential. And here's the thing. We typically substantially enhance the salaries of our graduates. And typically speaking, our graduates get paid far more than average because of the special skills we teach. the soft skills, the executive presence, the communication skills, the leadership skills. And you know what? If inflation's robbing you of your salary, increase your salary, increase your potential. So take advantage of the 30% discount on all of our programs right now. So if you've got some questions, that's why we do these things. You can ask me your questions and I can tell you how to build your best cloud computing career. So please ask me some questions in the chat box. And while we're at it, give me a hashtag cloud hired and also a hashtag where's your geography. I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida right now. I know Chris is in the Tampa, St. Petersburg area. I know Alonzo's over there in Katy, Texas. I know Chow's over there in Dallas. I know Eddie's over there in Bamenda, Cameroon. But where are you all from? Tell me in the chat box as well. So don't be shy. Ask us your questions. Tell us your goals. And we'll do everything we can to help you get cloud hired or promoted, whatever your goal is. Alonzo. Hi, Alonzo. How are you? Yeah, please hit that like button, subscribe along the way, and cloud hired, Alonzo. Chris? Yes, make sure you've got your questions ready and ask them. Please ask them out. See? Wow, we're reading each other's minds. Eddie Patrick, cloud hired. It was good to see you on Zoom this morning. Gee, hey, Mike, apart from a solution architect only knowing a single vendor's tech, what are the distinctions to tell the hiring manager when someone is a solution architect and you're not a cloud architect? Here's the thing, G. Technically speaking, we do the same job. We meet with the client, ask about their business goals, their business pain points, and their business challenges. That's what we do. And, now what does a solution architect do? They meet with the customer, they ask their business goals, their business pain points, and business challenges. So it's the same job. The only thing that's different is the focus. Let's say I go to the world's largest bank as a cloud architect and I'm working for a consulting company. I meet with that client and I say, tell me about your business goals, your business pain points, your business challenges, etc. Now here's my toolbox. Mr. Client, you've got this incredibly powerful data center, but you know what? You're not leveraging it the way you could be. We can place an OpenStack cloud in your data center and give you cloud-like scalability and agility to scale up and scale down with your servers inside of your applications and add new things quickly with all the investment you've made. Now, at the same time, I'm going to connect you to AWS and Azure because they're big, they're two big, strong, reliable clouds, and they can offer more agility than you have in terms of capacity adding. You can do some cloud bursting, and they can help with more digital transformation. Now, that's the same thing. The same thing as if I work for AWS and I said, here's this AWS cool stuff I have for you to help to serve your business. It's not any different. So the key distinctions that hiring managers know are, do you only know one or do you know them all? And the key is, it's not about your experience. It's about your competency. And they're very, very different, G. I can have over here a security engineer architect that was a security engineer for 15 years and was a security architect for 10. This person's got every certification in the world, the ones that matter, the CISSP, the CISSM, etc. And they've got years and years of experience. They're in charge of security for a big bank. On my right, I can have a 12-year-old little girl, pigtails, a t-shirt where she's got a cat on her cute shirt and a smile like this. That little girl can be so competent that she can get behind her little Macintosh and she can hack in to the systems that were designed by that person with 25 years experience. That's the person I hire. I hire the 12-year-old little girl every single time. And you'll see hackers often provide consulting to organizations because they're the best. They bypass the systems, they're the most competent. So what you do is you show the hiring manager in your competency. It's pretty easy, G. I can tell you this. I've done 6,000 interviews. Here's a normal interview tech, what it's like on an interview. Could you please tell me what is object storage? Yes, I'm certified. Object storage is S3. No, could you tell me about object storage? Yes, AWS S3 is object storage. How does object storage work? You just make a bucket. That's someone that doesn't know. Now, by comparison, if I asked that same question, I said, please tell me what is object storage. Now, this is someone that's may or may not be certified, but it's competent. They'll tell you that object storage is a type of storage area network technology and is completely dependent upon the network. They'll tell you that the storage area networks are basically systems that are filled with hard drives and a RAID array, and that way you've got a blend of speed and capacity, etc. And then they'll tell you that object storage takes your data and breaks it down into an object. And when the object is broken down into little pieces, it's if something very interesting happens. There's some metadata that's attached to the object that enables you to query the data, find the data in this manner. They'll also tell you that object storage is much more like a database than a traditional storage structure. And then it's completely flat. There's no hierarchy in there. It's almost like you've got your object, which is your data, and a database pointer to that, and that's kind of how it works. Someone that understands object storage will say, object storage cannot be mounted by a normal server. And the reason object storage cannot be mounted by a normal server is as follows. When you're working with object storage, every time you take a file which becomes an object and it gets modified by even a touch, it has to create a new version. So for example, if you had a server with 2 terabytes of DRAM, which is pretty common, you would have a swap file on that server of 3 terabytes. And if that swap file challenges 100,000 times a minute, which is about what it would do, you would have 100,000 3 terabyte objects, which is why you can't use object storage by normal systems. Now, you may know that object storage is really good for write once, meet anytime environments, such as static website hosting, such as software distribution, video content distribution, etc., etc. That's an answer of someone that knows. So when someone asks you a question, you can easily identify yourself as a certified solution architect without knowledge by saying, AWS is S3. How's it work? You make a bucket. That's not knowledge of object storage at all. That's knowledge of sysadmin work or configuration work. So that's how you show yourself as an architect. You will be asked the question, do you talk about the tech? What is the tech? How does the tech work? And next I will teach you how to use the tech. That's how you set yourself apart, G. Everybody else is going to try and you give them an answer and they won't know. And their answer is going to be, I'm certified. And that's not going to be an answer. You can show your expertise and then you're good to go. It's not about telling, it's showing. Eddie Patrick, cloud hired in Cameroon. So wonderful. Sobi, cloud hired in Nigeria. I'm so thrilled you're here from Nigeria. Tunji from Nigeria. Thank you for being here. I'm thrilled you're here. Love this international audience. Up and up. Hi, Mike. I do some research on how to become a cloud architect. On Udemy, people say, get DevOps developer. Do I need to learn these things? Okay, up and up. I'm going to give you a big warning. I made a LinkedIn post upon this. If you want to be an architect, do not ever study developer or sysops. I'm also going to tell you this, that I was retired and I came out of retirement because I saw the courses that were on Udemy, as well as that other provider that was also making certification courses. And what was happening, and I call this evil, is these people in order to sell courses were saying, hey, to be an architect, here's what you need to know. Here you become a software engineer. And here you learn this DevOps thing. And here you learn this maintenance stuff called sysops. And then up and up, here's the thing. While you're learning, or that person is learning, all these other people's jobs that are completely irrelevant to us, you know what you're not learning? Your job. Now, there's another problem. Now, because you're not learning your job and you're learning somebody else's job, you can't get hired and will never be hired. So the next problem which occurs is this. It destroys the brand of the potential cloud architect and solution architect. And that's why you have to remove these certifications from someone's resume to get them hired when they have them. Because it looks like this. If you were going to hire an airplane pilot and you saw the resume of a pilot and they showed that they went to the Navy and they had a degree in aerospace engineering or ballistics or something like that, where they understood vectors and they understood coefficients of friction, and then they had training in their youth in the Navy as a paramedic, so you'd see paramedic in case an emergency happens on the plane, and then pilot with expert pilot skills. And then let's talk, and I'm going to tell you about some other things that are associated with this, especially with regards to train the way you fight and train the way you compete. Now, next, I want you to think about this. You've got another pilot that was a lawyer for a little while, a flight attendant, a doctor, a pharmacist, a physical therapist, and a cloud architect. Hey, I'm your pilot. Do you want that person? No. So here's the thing. When anybody has those irrelevant certifications on the resume and tells me it applies for a job, I won't even look at them because I know they don't know my job. So there's that. And I'm also going to tell you that I've had people that have all these certifications on their resume. They go on interviews and they say, Mike, they're not asking me about architecture. I'm not having a chance to talk about my CXO relevancy, and nobody's willing to hire me. So up and up, I typically say to my students that had that, I say, can I look at your resume? And they say, sure, Mike. And I see sysops and DevOps, et cetera, all this nonsense in there, and I remove it. Now, it's not nonsense if you want a job in those people's careers, but it is nonsense here. It is. And therefore, it makes you look less of an architect and more of somebody else. Now, it's even worse than that. No one wants an engineer to be an architect. And here's the reason why. An architect thinks, how do I solve this problem with technology? And the problem is always a business problem. And an engineer always thinks, how do I build this? So you're ultimately building a resume as somebody else's job. Now, I believe in training the way you fight. And what does this come for? So early in my youth, I did martial arts. I did Taekwondo, and I loved it. And I learned katas, very interesting, round blocks and this block, and they're all methodical. I did that for years. And then I did some Kempo, and I did some Shotokan. And in the end, I had some good skills. But there were rules. Don't punch the person here. Don't do this. Don't do this. It's kind of like the UFC. Lots of rules, which is why people like me that have a Krav Maga background can't play in the UFC. And it's a different strategy. So let's talk about what I learned in how to fight to the death. So at some point, I got to train with some of the Israelis in Krav Maga and another experts from those. And here we were trained, how do you deal with it like battle? So what did we do? They trained us exactly like war. And we would spar in a slow manner. They called it slow fighting, half movement speed, because the things we were doing were so lethal, you couldn't practice them in the kata. And here's what I learned. I learned more in the first 2 weeks training under this than I did in the previous 10 years. Because the 10 years were all theoretical, like this, like this. This training was dedicated. Boom, 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 boom. And it was like, wow. So there was this. So train the way we fight. Now, I want you to think about this. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I never meant to be. But what happened, which caused me to have the highest level CSCS certification, was as follows. I was injured in an accident to the point where I couldn't walk for 8 years. And I was doing 6 to 8 hours of physical therapy to try and do these things. So I studied every form of training. And what I learned was there's general physical preparedness, which makes you good enough at a lot of things, but not great at anything. And there's the way a professional athlete trains. When you've got a professional athlete, say a gymnast. I love Simone Biles. I think she's one of the most incredible gymnasts in the world. Simone Biles trained every day to be a gymnast. She wasn't doing running. She wasn't swimming. She wasn't doing crew in the off season. She didn't think that she was going to start writing books or et cetera, et cetera. She was doing gymnastics. She was training gymnastics things, doing power training for gymnastics, mobility training for gymnastics, recovery from gymnastics. Her diet was even based on her gymnastics performance. That's why she's the world best. So do not, under any circumstances, train for somebody else's career. Train for your career. Master your career. I actually made a LinkedIn post about it today. And I actually made a LinkedIn post last week. I know it offended all the Udemy certification providers that are in such a rush to sell their certifications that they don't care about what happens to the people. Now, they'll tell you they will, and then they say, hey, I've got a new certification bundle for you. Here, buy all these irrelevant courses all stacked together. In the end, spend the next 2 years of your life learning irrelevant skills. And then in the end, nobody even knows who you are. When you go in a job interview and someone asks you about architecture, all you can talk about is maintenance, which is not architecture. Or you can talk about, software, automating software leases. But you know what? And there's that. Again, which you're still not going to know any of that And here's the reason why. A good DevOps engineer could spend 10 years becoming one to really learn DevOps and be good at it. They may get hired with a couple of years of training, but to be good at it, it's going to take them 10 years. I spent 25 years in the network space. And you want to know something? After 25 years, I know that I know about this much in the networking world, considering there's about this much. What do I know? I can tell you right now. The enterprise architecture side, which is designing systems, BGP, and OSPF. And when people would say, hey, Mike, let's talk about rapid spanning tree, I'm like, nope, that's the layer 2 person over here. That's the spanning tree expert. I'm the expert on OSPF and BGP. I've got 10,000 hours in just BGP. And you know what? It'll take me the next 25 years to be even better, to be a master in just BGP. So be great at your job. Now, I know there's going to be some people that say, I've seen a job description that has all this. And there's two things. If you read it from IBM, you're not going to see that. If you read it from Cisco, you're not going to see it. If you see it from VMware, it's not going to see it. There's that. There's going to be more focus. But the companies that want a real architect like the kind I'm describing, pay them, and they pay them well. These little other things where they want jack of all trades and masters of none, these are the lowest paid jobs in the world. So I don't want you working hard to learn the lowest amount of money possible. I want you to focus on your job, be a master on your job, work hard to be the best and brightest. And understand one thing, up and up, I came out of retirement because I was upset about what I saw on Udemy and I saw on these other courses. I then, up and up, did 1,000 interviews of people that actually took these courses. And I couldn't find a single person, it was big fat zero, of anybody that knew anything about architecture. All knew DevOps things, all knew SysOps things, all knew how to code for a job where you design, present, and sell. Now, tomorrow night, you'll hear from Delroy Batt. He's 25 years old, has an associate's degree, by the way, but he's brilliant. He's got a heart of gold and a heart that will not quit until he wins. He doesn't code. And if you ask my graduates to get hired, none of them know how to code. None of them know anything about DevOps. None of them know anything about SysOps. Why? They're architects. They're architects. And they're seen as architects. They're perceived as architects. And I got to tell you, I'll compare the salaries of the people that go through my program to the people that do these certification programs any day. And I know mine are much, much higher because I know the offers that my people are getting. And I know why they're getting them because I know what it takes to earn more money. Like my manager told me 20 years ago when he pulled me into a room and he said, Mike, what's the difference between a $150,000 engineer like you are now and a $300,000 architect? And I said, tell me. And he said, Mike, it's the impact you can make to your customers. He said, I'm telling you this for a few reasons. You're not like everybody else. Everybody else is a jack of all trades and a master of none. You know your two things and you know it well, but wow, you know them. He then said to me as follows. He says, everybody else goes to the office and complains that you're not in the office. He says, you go to the customer site every single day. And he said, so you make a bigger impact than your customer. He then said, here's the next things that matter. Your communication skills are good, but they need to be better. He said, your leadership skills are going to need to be better. He said, you must be much more CXO relevant, meaning I need you to be more versed on what to say to the CEO versus the CTO versus the CIO versus the CFO, so you can better influence their decisions and get better requirements. He said, your emotional intelligence, that's top notch, but get better at it. He said, your empathy levels are top notch, but get better at it. He said, your business acumen is not good enough. Raise it. And if you do that, you'll be that architect. A year later, I was that architect. But everything he told me was right. Pay, salary, ability to rise, it all came true. And that's why I teach this every day, because the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line. And here's the thing, and this is why I love history. If you know history, you'll know and be able to predict the future, because those who do not remember the past will be doomed to repeat those things in the future. So I learn history, I study, and I'm so glad you're here, Up and Up, so you can ask questions from people that have actually done it, as opposed to the people that are just in these forums that really don't know. Because how do they know? They're not working in the field. And if they are, they're at the bottom, and I'm telling you what it's like from working at the top, and I want you to be at the top. So there you go. Chris Jonathan Rubicon, hey there, viewing from Twitch. We decided to live stream on Twitch at the same time to see what it felt like. So awesome. Happy clouding. Yes, 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 Chris. Awesome. Antonio. Hello, what level lab should I have? Is it okay to build the PC powerful enough for virtual machine like an AMT with 16 cores and 120 in RAM? I suggest you get yourself a Xeon or server if you want to do labs yourself. Otherwise, take it our program because it will cost you less for the server than it will cost for our program is about a third of the price of the server, but it needs to be a server, not a PC. And here's the reason. This is going to be something that's going to run as a server, and it's going to be based upon Debian Linux. So you're going to have a motherboard on that server and NVMe drivers in that server that are really going to function. Now, if you're dealing with a Ryzen, again, you're not in a good position because you may need to go past 128 gigs of RAM, and they won't let you do that. So you could use a Threadripper Pro system. I have a 64-core Threadripper Pro system that I use as a personal lab server, but it's got a half a terabyte of RAM in it, and that's kind of mine. It's got a 3995 workstation processor, a half a terabyte of RAM in it, and that's kind of my go-to hobby toy. For my students, I've got a lot of Dell servers. They each have two 12-core CPUs in it. They all have plenty of RAM. So no, I wouldn't use a PC. I would use a server or an official workstation, something that's based and designed and built to run something like VM or ESXi, and you don't run the kernel drivers and other problems. So it's going to cost some money, but at least 16-core Xeon server or AMD EPYC server, but a server, not a PC. They're very different. This thing you want is going to be running error-correcting RAM, for example. And in the server, make sure you've got a minimum of 128 gigs of RAM. And you may find that's not enough for some of the things you want to do with it. And then make sure that you have 3 SSDs in a RAID 0 or use a good NVMe drive because that will give you the speed. And then we can go to the next question. Jindu. To become cloud hire, do you need to acquire the TOEFL certificate? No, not at all. Jindu, the last 100 or so people that we've got cloud hired don't have TOGAF. Now, when you want to become a cloud enterprise architect, I recommend the following. You improve your executive communication skills, your leadership skills, your emotional intelligence, your business acumen, your ability to do ROI modeling, your executive presence, your CXO relevancy, because the enterprise architect is about 80% business executive and 20% technical. Now, I'm very familiar with the TOGAF certification, and I've always wanted an architecture certification, like a real one. And the theory is that's what the TOGAF is. But here's the problem. I've spent my life taking TOGAF architectures that were designed by people that tried to explain it to the customer, and the customer said, huh? What? What's that? And then they gave me the TOGAF architecture, and I looked at it, and I translated it into human terms that I could communicate to the executive. And they went, I couldn't imagine what those other people were trying to talk about. What are they thinking? I'm like, I don't know. It's TOGAF. It's too theoretical in nature. And now what would happen is the enterprise architects would hand the TOGAF things to the engineers. And the engineers would look at it and say, what's this? And they'd see little boxes and system buses and all this other nonsense. And the engineers would be like, what's this? And then the rest of my life was taking the TOGAF things that were done by the techie architects instead of the real architects, the techie architects. And then I translate it over to the engineers, and they'd say, thanks, Mike. Now I know what to build. And Tindo, 50% of the architect job is translating business requirements into tech requirements. And with TOGAF, you're going to be doing a lot more of it. Now, there are some enterprise architect jobs that have it. I've been an enterprise architect and never needed it, never wanted it. I'm not Mr. Certification. I'm Mr. Be great at your job. Mr. Be really, really great at your job. And actually go to their website while you're at it. Try and look at it. And when you say exactly here theoretical and fluffy, you're going to realize, like, okay, Mike speaks Greek at home. When I speak to Americans, I speak in English. When I speak to Greek people, I speak in Greek. So you'll just be translating English to Greek all day long. And yes, you occasionally see it in a job description, but here's what job descriptions mean to me. Absolutely zero. I mean zero. I've never been interviewed by a company where I didn't get an offer. I don't think. There may be one, but I don't remember. So I'm going to say 90% of them. Now, because I knew what the hiring managers wanted, I'm also going to tell you something else. I've never, ever had more than 10 to 20% of the skills on the job description. And yet, on every interview, I've been hired. And I had to take the words cloud architect off my LinkedIn profile because I couldn't deal with the 20 and 30 recruiters that were sending me messages every day. I need to hire you for enterprise architect jobs and these kind of jobs as well. And here's the thing. It's because I know what the role is. It's because I position myself well, and it's because I'm competent and I've got an optimized profile. Be great at your job, and then you'll be super successful. Can you please describe the process of getting a job as an architect with AWS? Like what happens in the first interview? So I will give you generics because when you interview with them, he'll have to sign an NDA. I've not interviewed with them, but I have a lot of people that interview with them all the time, so I can't tell you. You'll receive generally a screening interview up front. It'll be a very screening interview, good, easy screening interview. And then you'll get another screening interview. This time it's going to be a little deeper. At some point, what you're going to get is the reality, which is they're going to bring you in and you're going to have to deliver a presentation. And they're going to send you home with some technology things, and it's going to be nothing. Like if you're a real architect and you have any training, it's going to be the simplest thing you've ever seen in your life. If you've been through a certification training and that's it, it's going to be incredibly impossible for you. But they're going to ask you a very simple thing to design a very basic architecture, something my students can do in about 15 minutes, and then you're going to present it back to them, because really a cloud architect designs, presents, and sells. So you're going to have to present the architecture. There's no configuring test, there's no coding test, because it's not a hands-on job. But they want to know, are you in fact an actual architect, or are you a certification junkie? Certification. Now, there will be some behavioral interviews, and you'll have to communicate to them that you understand their leadership principles, and they're part of the things that you do, and they're part of you. Guess what? Their leadership principles are the same leadership principles on every other job for every other tech company. So all in all, it's pretty easy. They hire a lot of people. They're excellent in their hiring practices. They hire really smart people because they look for the people that are willing to go above and beyond, the people that are energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate about the technology. They're looking for people that know the job and are competent at it. They're looking at people that will go above and beyond. They're looking people that want and care about the Amazon brand and want to see it grow. And they're looking to solve their customers' problems and do a darn good at a job at it. And they're great at what they do. So that's the process. You got to show them that. Our students get hired by them all the time. And here's the thing. Whether it was Joe Millen, who was a network engineer that came to me, that I trained him to a cloud architect that got his first job there as a senior cloud solutions architect, or whether it was Romanek Ivan Tamba, who had zero background when he came to me. He was working as a food server. And we got him his first job, AWS, as a solution architect. But here's the thing, he was smart. He was motivated. He could sell himself, and he had the right training. Again, Coyote. There's this, another student that just got hired by AWS. Never worked in tech before. He was a college student and got hired that. But the end stage is this. It's a presentation. You're going to speak to a panel of people. They're going to be watching your presentation. If you don't have good presentation skills, I'm going to tell you right now, take a $2,000 or $3,000 presentation skills boot camp, or take my course. Like, get your presentation skills top notch. And then you're going to be talking to some people. And what are they going to be? Leadership people. They're not going to think like techies. They're going to be leaders. So what does a leader care about? How does the tech work? What is the tech used for? How does the tech solve the business problem? How does the tech solve a customer problem? How can you lead? How can you sell? How can you design? What's your presentation skills like? Are you CXO relevant? These are the things they're going to be looking for in you, not your ability to know the name of a service and how to configure it. Now you know. And there's some videos on my YouTube channel on how to interview and things they're looking for with AWS. Just search them up and up. Great questions. Really great questions. Chris, we can go to the next one. Beefcake. Hi, Mike. You interviewed for a cloud security role, but they claim they loved it so much they are now offering me an IT security manager position. Can I give you an insight on both roles, please? Sure. A IT security manager generally manages people that are doing IT security. A cloud security architect typically does something where they meet with the customer, they talk to the customer about their security challenges, and they design a security architecture, build a plan of training plans for the employees, whether it be anti-phishing kind of thing or anti-social engineering, writes a security policy, determines whose routers and whose firewalls and whose IDS, IPS systems are going to be in there, what kind of identity and access management things are going to be there unless you have an identity access management, those kind of things. So that's kind of the thing. I bet what you're dealing with is as follows. You interview with them and they loved you as a person, but you didn't have the design skills or the kind of executive skills that would be needed to go be that architect. But they liked you so much, they said, wow, I can put this guy in charge of my IT people and he can manage them, get some management experience, and they can still offer you a good job. And this is a really good job. And how do you go from either this to architect? More leadership skills, business acumen, executive presence, communication skills, et cetera, or better design skills. I didn't do the interview. So it's typically one of those things that's kind of missing there. But the point is great job on being low, great job in getting an offer. But one's typically the thing where you manage the engineers on the team, and the other one's typically the thing where you lead the strategy, how an organization would transform. So completely different roles. But here's the thing. You got offered a great job in a down economy, so be proud of yourself. We can all get hired in down economies. I wrote an article in a newspaper that'll be published the next day. I'll share it or so. We can all, or the next day or two, you can all get hired in a down economy, but great job. I'm very happy for you. Consider yourself to be hired in some way, shape, or form. This is really, really good, good news. So super exciting. Chris, let's go to the next one. Quick Strike Money One. Hey, Mike, just wondering how has the cloud engineer been? And it's going great. Our students are doing great. They're showing that they have the skills and they're gaining the skills each day. It's been going fantastic. But we hired people from all over to help us make it. We hired some of the best people from some of the best technology companies, reached out to lots of people from huge backgrounds. And yeah, it's going fantastic. Chris, you can go to the next one. Robert Welch, Cloud Hired. It's good to see you here today. In Omar, Cloud Hired Germany. Hi, Mike. What's the difference between a solutions architect and a principal solution architect? Usually one of two things. Typically speaking, the principal solutions architect are more sophisticated. They're deemed more important. And then typically the way it goes is typically architect, senior architect, principal architect, and then typically some of the organizations have distinguished architects at the top. My first principal architect job was in 2001, so it's a role I know a lot about. Here's the thing. Your typical solution architect is usually an end-to-end designer. Now, you may find principal architects would be like the cloud network architect like me. I mean, I'll do the enterprise end-to-end solutions too, but if I'm going to focus on something, my expertise is the network. So a company would hire me if I was going to stay on the technical side as a principal solution architect. And I'm on the technical side. Now, how do you go from solution architect, to senior solution architect to principal solution architect. Well, it's not what you think. The solution architect has a broader sense of things in general, where the principal architect is going to be the cloud BGP expert. Now, that's on the technical side of how people go from senior solution architect to principal architect. Now, there's the other side. The other side of this is, as you get into these bigger architecture roles, you start earning $300,000 and $400,000 plus per year, like the distinguished architects, the high-end enterprise architects, and the high-end principal architects. They're not looking for just tech skills. They're looking for someone that can walk in and talk to the CEO and assuage any fears they have, and come in there and parachute in like a SEAL team, that the experts that just walk in, that know what to do. Now, when you're dealing with that, what are you dealing with? You're dealing with the executive presence to really will come in and have the poof and the punch to be able to deliver that message. You're dealing with the CXO relevancy skills, and these people, the principal architects, are experts at knowing what to communicate to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO. Why do you think I teach so much to this in all of our students? For this reason, so they can rise to the top so much faster and get hired in the first place. It has to do with the business acumen. As an expert, when I talk to a customer and they want to talk about their compound annual growth rate, there's the thing. I need to be able to talk to that executive and then bring that back into technical/functional requirements. So the more business acumen I have, there. Now, it's also about the communication skills. And here's the thing. The better your architecture work, the better your career, the better your communication skills. Coding skills are no benefit to the architect, but communication skills are so critical. And here's the reason why. I'm an architect. What determines my design? The customer's business requirements and whatever their challenges are, the things they have in place, et cetera, et cetera. For me as the architect, my biggest, most critical skill is my communication skills. So your principal architects typically have better communication skills than your regular solutions architects. Now, at the top level, we're walking in and we're going to be peers with the executives. Now, we may need to go back as architects, and I want you to think about this for a second. I'm now a principal architect. I've met with that client and I go, wow, this is a huge opportunity. This is an $800 million opportunity. And now I got to lead a team. So the principal architect's going to have really good sales skills and relationships across the company to ask this SVP, this EVP, this CTO, I need to borrow 6 people for 6 months to help me with the architecture. That's the difference, and that's how you go there. It's all about focus and your business skills. It's not nothing to do with this. How do you not become a principal solution architect? You get 10x certified. And by doing that, you're so focused developing a little bit of 10 different people's careers that you don't know your career. And then when it comes to being able to deliver a message powerfully, you don't have those skills. So that's how you do it. And great question, Amen. Excellent question. Lloyd Peters, can you understand the CCIE or CCDE content with just foundational network of knowledge? No, we can teach you the level of that global concept, but there's no way. Here's the thing, and here's why I like the CCIE or CCDE. In AWS Advanced Networking, I could teach you that, and I use it in the intro to junior level networking, and I like it for that. I could teach you that with 250 to 300 pages of material. A CCIE program is about 65 to 75,000 pages of material. So now we're talking about this. And here's what happens. When we teach in AWS Advanced Networking, we have to simplify things so much that it's almost a lie. And as we get deeper and deeper into the CCIE level stuff, and we're talking about what's in each message, and we're talking about how do you scale to 50,000 locations, and we're talking about what goes in one protocol and not in traffic engineering. The fundamental skills for that knowledge are so strong that most people will not be able to understand that content. Now, It depends how it's being taught, though, and it depends on the instructor. Last week, I had people, no networking background. We had 2,100 people on this free webinar, and they understood BGP by the end of it. I'm going to tell you this. Most CCNPs don't know BGP. And the people that were done this presentation had CCNP, almost junior level CCIE knowledge in BGP in 4 hours. But, I spent my life with BGP. And because of that, I mastered it. When I say I mastered it, I mean, I have subject matter mastery. I'm also going to tell you this. I could spend the next 50 years and still learn more about BGP. So I didn't exactly master it. I'm just considered to be an expert because I've got more than 10,000 hours on it. And that's been a dedicated focus. So at that level, you start looking at the world differently. You understand how everything works. And then you know how to tune it. So here's the thing. I have a friend, and he is a master expert mechanic. And he takes little Honda Civics and he turns them into performance race cars. And when I ask him what needs to be done, he starts getting into compression ratios and engines and fuel and oxygen mix and different gases. And by the time he explains it to me, I understand it. And how can he tune it like that? How can he turn this kind of car to outperform a $300,000 car? Because he's got such knowledge of those fundamentals. He's mastered it. He knows what to do, which is different than if I just took my car to the car dealer and said, here, do this. They wouldn't have that skill, and here's the reason why. That's not their job. Their focus is maintenance and optimization, how long something lives, as opposed to performance tuning it. So performance tuning takes more than regular metrics. The CCIE is all about performance tuning and making the network do the things to truly change the business. So great question there, Blake. Chris, you can go to the next one. Gaurav, around 14 years of experience, not able to decide cloud architect. You like coding a lot, and please help. Gaurav, make it real simple for you. If you want a job where you meet with people, talk to people, ask about their business, have business conversations, on your corporate credit card, you take people to lunches and dinners and drinks, present at conferences and write papers, and don't touch the technology and don't want to touch the technology, you're an architect, and you're an architect in mind. If you like to code and you want to be hands-on in tech, you're not going to be an architect if that's your focus, because here's the problem. If you try to get hands-on as an architect, disasters happen. And here's why. Like if you were trying to fly an airplane like an architect, and you were in the back trying to keep the 500 passengers in the airplane safe in their chairs, delivering oxygen when needed, and you were back there doing engineering work, and that's more engineering work, and there's no pilot in the cockpit, plane's going to crash. It's just a matter of when. So you can't do two people's jobs at the same time. So if you like being hands-on, you want to be a cloud engineer, and that's the right skill for you. If you want to design, present, and sell, being an architect's the right skill for you. It's all about what you're going to like more. Do you want to be presenting or coding? You want to be writing or coding? Responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, or configuring? That's the best way I can describe it for you. Do you want to build the blueprints, or do you want to be the construction crew that puts it together? Building architect is like a cloud architect. I tell them what I want, they design me beautiful blueprints. I say, yes, thank you, architect, I agree to your design, and then hire a construction crew. They dig the ground, pour the cement, build the building, et cetera, et cetera. So now you know. If you're having a good time, please like and subscribe and hit the bell to be informed of new things. I'm going to remind everybody, we've got an AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp tomorrow, and all week long, register. It's going to be completely free. And on Thursday, we've got a how to get your first cloud architect job webinar, or cloud engineer if you want to ask that question. And guess what? It's completely free. Register. The link's in the description below in the chat box. Tomorrow night, Hill from Delroy Bat is my 25-year-old student who just got his first cloud security architect job, and he's incredible, and you'll listen to him. And we've got currently off 30% off of all our products on So if you're trying to get hired, use coupon code potential for 30% off. And then Chris, bring in the next question. We'll get to the next question in a second. I know how hard it is back there for Chris because he's looking through thousands of these things and messages. But Chris will have our next question up in a second. Nyan, good afternoon, Mike. You have a question. How much depth do we need in routing, such as OSPF and BGP? And what other routing protocols should we know as a cloud architect? Well, BGP, you definitely need to know what it is, how it works, why we use it, and you really should know how to tune it. So as architects, we need to think about BGP for a couple of reasons. Where everything is multi-cloud and we're exchanging information between clouds, we need BGP. And when we're exchanging information between our data centers on a cloud, we need BGP. And anytime we connect to external entities, we also need BGP. So kind of think about it this way. BGP is absolutely critical. Now, if you're doing anything more sophisticated, like working in private clouds, you'll understand that you may need eBGP and iBGP, and iBGP will not work without an IGP, such as OSPF, or intermediate systems. So there's that. So, but I will say as now, you need to understand BGP, which means understand the BGP finite state machine, understand what goes into these BGP messages to a degree, understand how to tune BGP so you can send a packet on one link and it doesn't come back in an asymmetric fashion. And that means, knowing when to prepend, knowing when to change the weight, knowing when to change the AS path, knowing when to change the MED, knowing when to change the origin code, understanding about BGP communities, route maps, distribute lists, etc. at bare minimum. So knowing the BGP protocol, how it works, and how to tune it is at least the minimum level of knowledge of BGP for a good cloud architect. Good question, Nyan. Chris, you can go to the next one. Good day, Mike. Happy to be part of the live stream. What are the possibilities of getting an entry-level job in cloud with certs like CCNA, Linux Plus, and A Plus? Well, you have to tell me what the job is. So it won't get you a job like a cloud engineer. It won't get you a job as a cloud architect. And certifications in general don't get anybody hired. Knowledge gets people hired. So the key is, what do you know? Do you understand from the CCNA what are VLANs? How to segregate your traffic with VLANs? Do you understand the trunking capacities and the spanning tree and the rapid spanning tree? Do you understand what OSPF and how to segment the areas, et cetera, because that's networking things? Do you understand to set up the wide area network and implement a queuing policy, et cetera? Do you understand the protocols and how they work? Not whether you pass the exam. Linux Plus isn't really a certification we ever recommend. We recommend people avoid the CompTIA certifications because there's nothing wrong with the certifications, but they're not on any employer's list other than Help Desk and Best Buy for the Geek Squad for the most part. So we don't like that. But here's the thing. If you actually know Linux, it has nothing to do with your certifications anyway. Do you know how to administer a service? How to update a kernel, how to compile code on a Linux system? Do you know where the files are, like a /etc host file, for example? How to edit things in the Linux configuration? How to alter the boot process? How to disable services, for example? How to harden a system, etc. So those are the skills that you would need to know. Now, if you have a Linux press and those skills, great, but it's more the skills than that. AWS certs, I don't know what job you want. So again, it has nothing to do with your certifications. It has to do with your skills. Now, not having experience, that's no big deal. Everybody gets their first job. I got my first job. All my students, half of my students, or a lot of my students don't have any experience and they get hired all the time. So that's not the big deal. It's having the right skills, the right resume, the right interview techniques for the job. So if you tell us what you'd like to do, then I can tell you which job it may or may not help you for and the gaps that you'll actually need. Because there's definitely something you can do and get that first job. First job we get people is the cloud engineer, cloud architect based upon their goals. And it doesn't have anything to do with their experience. It has everything to do with their competency. So there's that. So tell me what career you'd like, and then we can advise you better on how to get there. Chris, let's go to the next one. G, does reading financial statements and balance sheets occupy a lot of a cloud architect's time? And when does it actually engage in financial related activities? That is financial related activities. Being able to look at a company's business performance, see their financial strengths, their financial weaknesses, etc. Where are the opportunities to save? For example, what's going on with the company? Where are their costs structured? When the company thinks they have balance for X, and you find cost Y, and the technology can be cost Z, and cost Z for the technology can solve cost X's problems and then some, there's a budget for technology. So, yeah, you're always going to be dealing with balance sheets and financial statements and industry analysts because you need to see what they have to say too. They may have recommendations. Industry analysts, activists, investors, they may have a perspective based upon their wealth and experience that might be good for the business. So you have to look at all that in every architecture. And not most of your time. I'm going to tell you this, 25 to 50% of your time is probably spent schmoozing. But, the key is definitely part of your time. Definitely part of your time. Chris, let's go to the next one. I think there's a lot of questions there. Phil Jackson, can I please name the list of cloud architect books that you've approved? Oh, Fallon. Really the key is I'd recommend the Cisco Press books, for example. Internet Routing Architectures, Routing TCP/IP Volumes 1 and 2. I'd recommend Stevens TCP/IP. I would recommend what you really need to learn, since the cloud architect books are kind of ridiculous that are out there. We wrote our own AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, covers the associate and professional in a single exam, because we didn't like the books that we saw out there. I will then tell you that Cisco's got books. Cisco Press Books has books on data center. There are books on VMware, for example, that explain VMware architectures and Linux architectures. They're all good. But really, what is an architect and what matters to the architect? The ability to design, present, and sell. So, macroeconomics textbooks, marketing textbooks, critical there. Reading a financial statement, critical there. A financial analyst would be good. An accounting book is good. I can tell you hundreds of books that I've read on psychology, neurolinguistic programming, sociology, and economics. Those are on there. So what's really a cloud architect's knowledge is the knowledge of the network in the data center, because that's all the cloud is, a virtual network in the data center. But more importantly, like presenting to Win from Jerry Meisman is a good start when giving presentations, for example. It's a great start on presentation skills. Why Business People Speak Like Idiots is another good book. It teaches people how not to speak with jargon and speak with simple, plain language to get the point across. But, there's a lot of these books. I mean, I used to read 3 of them per week for the last 25 years. I don't get to do it these days. In fact, I kind of feel hard about it. It takes me now a month to get through a book, because here's the thing. I get about 3,000 to 4,000 emails a day, a few thousand messages to stay on Slack, and et cetera. It's just to the point where, like, I can't do it anymore, and I miss it. But it's more important for you to read books on networking and data center than it is cloud. I'm going to tell you that right now, because cloud architect takes something from networking and data center to move it to the cloud. I mean, sure, I'll read the AWS white papers, the Azure white papers, the Google white papers, but really, if you want to understand server virtualization, I'm going to get that information from VMware, not somebody's architecture book. And here's the reason why. VMware knows the virtualization better than anybody else in the world. They practically invented it. And if I want to learn about containers and container orchestration, I'm not going to look at some book that somebody that may or may not even be working wrote. I'm going to go to Docker, Kubernetes, etc., and read their documentation, read the OpenStack documentation. When I would need to know how load balancers work, I'm going to go to the king and queen of load balancers, F5, who's been making them forever, and read their documentation. When I want to know how a relational database works, I'm going to read the MySQL documentation, not anybody else's, the Oracle database documentation, the Postgres documentation. I'm going to go straight to the source. I'm going to go to the request for comments for the IP specs. I'm going to go to the IEEE for the engineering specs. I'm not looking for books that do it for me. I go to the source, I educate myself on all these other technologies, and then I get trained by an architect that teaches architectural principles. And for every architecture, I do research every single time. Great question, fella. Very good question, actually. Chris, you can go to the next one. James T. I'm starting with the Google Cloud. Will I be at a disadvantage professionally since GCP is further behind? James T., if you're starting by learning the Google Cloud, you're going to be stuck and not successful. And here's the reason why. If you learn any cloud and just buy the manufacturer's cloud, you're never going to be successful. And here's the reason why. In a certification, they teach you the name of a service and how to configure that service. Even the Google Professional Cloud Architect, which was and I'm not big on certifications, but it was the first cloud certification I did. Spent about 2 days preparing for it and took the exam just to prove it because it was easy, but that's neither here nor there. All it is like, here's Cloud Bigtable. This is what it does. Here's Cloud BigQuery. This is what it does. Here's a compute engine instance. This is what it does. They won't even tell you that it's a virtual machine and the documentation and training. Won't even talk about it. And what will happen is you'll learn the name of a service and how to configure that service. Now you go to an architect and you've got to design a solution, present it and sell it, and you don't know how it even works. So when people say, which cloud should I learn? I say, learn that cloud and not any cloud. And when people say, should I learn AWS or Azure or Google? I say, learn none of them. And they're like, Mike, are you crazy? And I say, no, here's the problem. If you're a cloud architect, for example, and I don't exactly know the career you want, but even for the cloud engineers, it's the same thing. If, by comparison, you're an architect, let me stop. Close this a bit. So let's say you're an architect. And now as an architect, you've got to design something. And what do cloud architect designs involve? Taking the stuff from the network and data center and migrating it toward the cloud. Taking the virtual machines, the containers, the load balancers, the databases, you're moving the stuff to the cloud. Here's what they don't teach you in certification. What is this stuff? Wait. Got a name certification, which teaches you the name of the service and how to configure it, but they don't teach you what is the stuff that you're moving. They don't teach you why you need the stuff. They don't teach you how the stuff works together, so they're missing the main majorities of what you're dealing with. So what you're creating is someone that knows the name of a service and how to configure that service. And then you go to your customer and you mention the name of a proprietary service, and they're like, okay, leave. And you're like, what do you mean leave? They say, I want a trusted advisor. I don't want someone that looks like they just sell or work for the other company. I want someone that I trust. And the second you start using all these terms. So what I recommend instead is that you learn the cloud. Oh, wait, what do I mean? So learn what is server virtualization. You learn what is server virtualization. You maybe play with some VMware ESXi. Now, once you know what server virtualization is, and you understand how you take a server, you understand where those hypervisors go, you understand how memory and CPU and disk resources are partitioned, now you know server virtualization. And now when you understand this, you know what a Google Compute Engine instance is, you know what an Azure virtual machine is, and an AWS EC2 instance. Now, get your documentation from Docker and Kubernetes on containers. Really learn it. Now, if you're in a VMware environment, an Oracle environment, an Azure environment, a Google environment, who cares? It's the same container. And then what you truly know, what is a load balancer, and when to use an application load balancer versus a network load balancer. If you're in a data center, if you're working with F5 gear, if you're on a Nutanix cloud, an OpenStack cloud, an Azure cloud, an Oracle cloud, a Google cloud, it's the same thing. So learn to drive a car. I mean, don't get started trying to drive a Mercedes. Okay, I can drive a Mercedes. Oh, wait, that's a BMW. I don't know how to drive that. Could you give me the new names of the services and what I need to do? Oh, wait, I rented a car and I'm renting a Honda. I don't know how to drive that. Okay, just learn how to drive. So learn that cloud and not any other cloud. And then you'll have the skills to be hired too, not just certified. And I'm like, if I sign up for the $4.99 program, I will still part of the Go Cloud Architects team. You want to sign up, but according to what you can afford, what are the pros and cons of each? Well, no matter what, you'll be part of Go Cloud Architects. And no matter what, you'll be part of a very supportive community. I mean, I've got a lot of people, some are in the basic program, some are not in the basic program. We've got a Slack channel, and people get together on Slack and they work together. I've got people working together in groups in UK, people working together in groups, and every country and every city you can imagine, because we're places where they're densely populated, and that's a lot of places for us. And they do it, and people work together off projects. They communicate on Slack. They do homework assignments together. Heck, some of my clients even design and build their own clouds together in my program as well, because that's part of the program for the basic in there. So no matter what, you're going to do well. Now, the advantage of being on the live program as follows. You can ask a question live in class. Plus, also, I get to know you. And in class, when I go through design, presentation, and sales, and you speak, right then and there, I'll be able to say, wait, let's redo it again. Let's try this with a little bit of gestures. Let's try slowing it down. Let's try making a point, pausing, changing your vocal tone, making another point, because I can coach you through it. Can't do that because in the non-live program. Now, even in the non-live program, you'll still be doing presentation assignments, and my team will give you feedback on it. So you're still going to get help along the way, but it's just the ability to be attending a live class. Now, if you're in one of the live classes and I get to know you, and one of my several hundred recruiters reaches out to me and says, Mike, I need somebody. And I say, I got this guy, Delroy. I really like him. You should talk to him. How do I know that I really like Delroy? Because I see him in class. Right now, many of my students are writing a Google Professional Cloud Architect book, which we're going to give away to the world for free. And doing that, they become authors, they get to work together, etc. They get to learn more executive writing, executive technical writing, and they've got a body of work behind their name, which helps them get hired more. I do that with the people that are in the program because I can see them, because they're the only ones who are allowed in class. So no matter what, we've got you covered. And we'll do whatever we can to help you get to your goals. But, that's the difference. Akash K, you're a fresh learner and have non-tech experience. Can I get into the cloud industry? Yes. The path you have decided is Red Hat Certified Solution Architect, CCNA, AWS Solution Architect Associate, and DevOps Tools. Well, Akash K, you haven't told me what job you want. So I can tell you, if you want to be a cloud architect, for example, that's the worst thing you could possibly do. Now, if you wanted to be a DevOps engineer, this could be one of the great things that you need to do. So tell me what you'd like to do, and I can tell you if there's a plan. But it's the horrible plan for a cloud architect, because the cloud architect designs, presents, and sells. We don't configure anything. And having a bunch of certifications does not build the cloud architect resume, but it does build so the key is, which job would you like? And I'll tell you if that'll be helpful. Hi, Mike, in your program, do you teach the soft skills needed by solution architects, or you just teach the tech? Reverend Sama, we teach everything. If I just taught a class and said, here's tech, and even if I taught because the certifications won't do anything. Now, if I gave you the certifications and then taught you the tech architecture skills, here's what would happen. You'd go on a cloud architect job and they say, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. And look, we take people out of these master's degree programs and get them hired all the time. We take people that have taken other people's $35,000 and $40,000 boot camps. Daniel Bose is one of them. He took a boot camp that was supposed to help him level up and build a career. He came to me, I gave him an interview and had no tech skills whatsoever. So what do? We trained him. 8 months later, he's now a working cloud architect at JP Morgan Chase. So he's doing great, because people tried to train these people on the tech. We teach the technical skills, the sales skills, the soft skills, the executive presence skills, the communication skills, the leadership skills, how to work collaboratively on things like an RFI, RFP, RFQ, how to negotiate a deal, or how to negotiate a better salary. We teach the CXO relevancy skills, the business acumen. Just last Friday, I was teaching people how to read a financial statement and how to do return on investment capital modeling for my students. I teach everything. Reverend Sama, our program is really a $50,000 program all in all, and we charge less than $1,000 to do it. And here's the reason. We like to be about 1 to 2 days pay for a graduate sale, and because that covers our cost to run the program. I've got a world-class team. 4 people on my team have master's degrees. And everybody else that's on my team is in some way, shape, or form so smart, so capable, and has something magical about them that they change the lives of my students. So we teach it all because I want my students to get hired. And we do it for a single day's pay for the average cloud architect based upon our average graduate salary. Benjamin, what's the best AWS place to start when one wants to get into cloud security? If you want to get into cloud security, you can't learn it from AWS. You got to learn security. If you want to learn security, you need to learn security, how to write a security policy. And this is not going to be covered in AWS Advanced Security. You're going to have to learn about hacking attempts. You're going to have to learn about things and tools that people use for hacking, such as Nmap, Kali Linux, and those kind of things. You're going to have to learn about next generation firewalls because we're not going to be using WAF and Shield to be securing our high security environments. We're going to be dealing with virtual next generation firewalls and intrusion detection, intrusion prevention systems, etc. So when you're done that, you're going to need to learn how to write a security policy. You're going to have to understand the kind of training that goes in to training somebody for anti-social engineering perspective, or anti-phishing, anti-malware campaigns that are being run. You're going to have to teach people. You have to teach all of that or be involved in all of these things. Then you need to be understanding for these jobs the types of identity and access management systems. It's going to be way more than just anything on AWS. Then you need to be thinking about encryption and encryption strategies. Do I encrypt the RAN? Do I encrypt information in transit? Do I do it encrypt on the server side? Do I encrypt it on the client side? How do I encrypt my storage? What do I use? What kinds of things need to be done on my servers to lock them down? Is it a firewall, anti-malware solutions? How do I disable unnecessary services on systems? That's security. You will need that knowledge minimum to work on any cloud. And then I recommend you learn the network in the data center so you can work on any cloud. But if all you learn is the name of the AWS service, how to configure those services, you're not going to be able to do any security, none whatsoever. And then I went back and you can get one of these intro-level certifications. If you want to do security architecture, for example, I would like the CISSP. I did it in 5 days. If you don't have the recommended experience, you can take the same exam and they give you the associate credential, but still, and when you have experience, then they'll translate it into the full one, but it's the same test and you don't have to take it twice. The CE Mitch Master, if you want to be doing any kind of hacking, for example. There's also an offensive security professional, those kind of things. So learn security. And then after you learn security, knock out one of these certifications that are easy, but those are the kind of certifications. And then learn the cloud. And I recommend this is my intro level cloud certification. It's the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. So do the associate professional, and that'll teach you some cloud things, but it still won't teach you what you need to know. You need to then learn the cloud, which means learn the network and the data center plus those things, and then you'll learn what you need to, and then you'll be very hireable and have good opportunities. It's not like the old days. 20 years ago, certifications, weren't the name of the service, how to configure them. They weren't being taught by people who basically had never worked in tech or had limited tech experience, but a webcam, and now they're an instructor. And 20 years ago, there weren't organizations that would hammer you every day. I can give you a guaranteed passing result on this exam. Because of that, the value of certifications is very low. Olu, how difficult is it for a project manager to pivot to be a cloud engineer? Not that big of a deal. It's easier. It's a little easier for a project manager to pivot into being a cloud architect than a cloud engineer, but in either case, they can do it. Not that bad. No. I actually was going to add a little more to that, Chris. So here's the thing. The reason I say it's easier to be an architect, as a project or program manager, there's much more communication skills that you're already using. There's much more managing of a team, etc. There's much more planning, which is more what the cloud architect does. To be an engineer, here's the good news. You do have a methodical way of thinking, and you need to communicate that. You are good at getting deliverables done on time and budget, typically speaking, as a program manager, at least as close as possible to that. And, it's a tactical job to some degree, the engineer. So then, learn Linux, learn Terraform, learn the cloud itself, learn some networking, and then master a single cloud provider, how to configure things, learn bash shell scripting, learn Python scripting, and you can have a very good cloud engineering career, although it's a much more technical job. Jason T. Can you talk about having a more robust portfolio for hiring managers? In your previous video, you discussed it was a good idea to have offensive security certification. Wait a second. I never say any certifications is ever good to have. I say that certifications will help you get an interview, and what you should do is determine your actual career and then learn the skills for your career, and the skills of your career like the cake, and then figure out which certifications will actually look good on your career. So for someone that wants to do cloud offensive security, then I like an offensive certification. If someone's doing cloud defensive security, then I don't want an offensive certification. I want something that's more like a CISSP because it paints the better picture. If I've got somebody that doesn't want to do security and they put offensive security certifications on their resume, I'm going to have to remove them later because it's going to make them not look as good for their job. So I believe, and I always communicate, that you determine your exact job, you learn the exact skills for your job to be great at it, and then you get the certifications to help you get an interview. The certifications are like the tail. The dog wags the tail. The certifications don't wag the dog. Kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So again, if you tell us what career you want, I can actually help you get there. But there's that. And a portfolio looks different based upon every different career. A portfolio for an engineer is one thing. A portfolio for an architect, like I've been seeing resumes that have Git projects on architect resumes. That tells me can't hire the person, they're an engineer. So, but in a cloud engineer's portfolio, if they've got some experience with Git, not Git projects, but Git, that might look really good. So the key is knowing exactly what it is. So I never determine what a certification or recommend anything until I know exactly the career. So, Chris, go to the next one. David Che, I have a cloud architect interview upcoming. Good, you're a career accountant. Any tips on how to position yourself? Absolutely. So, David, I don't know if you're a tax accountant, a chartered accountant, or someone that's doing like accounting, looking at organizations doing organizational-wide accounting for things like SEC compliance. But no matter what you're doing in accounting, typically speaking, the following: you're dealing with a business. This business goals, the business comes to you with something. I have a business challenge. We want to reduce our tax burden, or etc., or something. Then you actually look into the business. You look at their revenues. You look at their cost of goods sold. You look at their advertising expenses. You look for available tax shelters. You look at where the business money is coming. Is it being earned overseas? What are the financial implications of repatriating the money, et cetera, et cetera? From there, you make a diagnosis, and from there, you build a plan for that customer. You sell the plan to the customer, and then you implement the plan, like consulting. As a cloud architect, we do the same thing. We design a solution based upon, we interview the client, we ask them what their goals are, we examine their current systems, we examine their balance sheets, financial statements, what industry analysts are saying about them. We then make a diagnosis and we make a plan. So the reality is you're doing the same job right now. So if there's sales in your current job, like let's say you're working for an Accenture, for example, and you're selling accounting, or Deloitte, or and you're selling something that has some accounting services, etc., then guess what? You can say you're going to the customer, you're finding the information, you're presenting it back, and you're selling it. But here's the thing, David. As an accountant, you're a solution provider. You've been consulting with customers for the last XYZ number of years about their business to create a solution to improve the performance of that business. That's what you're actually doing. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. So if you're doing that right now, that's how you position yourself. Meeting with a client, talking about them. Now, here's the other thing, David, that's going to be saying. As an accountant, you have to have meticulous attention to detail. Given my experience in accounting, I've had to have a meticulous attention to detail, which enables me to design a solution for my customer that always works and has no gotchas. I can take that experience and that level of attention to detail to my architectures to solve customer problems. Mr. Hiring Manager, Mrs. Hiring Manager, for the last 15 years, I've been consulting organizations to improve their business performance. Now, granted, some of my tools were numbers in the past, but now my tools are tech tools with architecture. I'm great at transforming organizations. I can take my business acumen, my communication skills, my leadership skills, and with my expert business acumen, I'm in the perfect position for digital transformation. That's kind of the thing. So those are the things that you need to talk about. Show the relevance from your past life and how it can help you in your future life. It's what I did when I went from internal medicine to tech, and that's what my students do when they change careers. I've got another student right now that just got an offer. She has a mental health background, and she's doing great too. But so I had a similar discussion with her. And actually, I've got about 13 blogs, and at least 10 of them or so actually talk about how to interview for cloud architect jobs. So follow me on LinkedIn. Because a lot of free training coming out on LinkedIn soon. Gee, 20 years of experience, 20 years of experience means nothing to me. Experience means you've been doing something for a long time. I need to know what you want to do. And difference between a solution architect and an enterprise architect is as follows. An enterprise architect is an executive, 80% business, 20% technical. They speak with the client, they ask about their business needs, and they transform it to an end-to-end solution, which uses 3 clouds, supply chain software, customs relationship management software, unified communications platform. It is the big end-to-end picture designer. It's a business acumen that's a little bit technical and can lead a technical team to create a technology solution to improve the business performance. That's what they do. A solution architect is, hey, I work for AWS. Okay, client, tell me about your business goals, business pain points, business challenges. I've got some great AWS services I can sell you. And here's the design. And as soon as that's the difference. How do you scale? Leadership skills, sales skills, executive presence, communication skills, ROI modeling skills, executive presence, CXO relevancy, negotiation skills, executive writing skills, executive presentation skills. That's how you scale any of these jobs. Chris, go to the next one, please. Will you be set sales targets as a solutions architect or cloud architect? Absolutely. Now, you're not going to be fired like the sales rep if you don't meet your quota, but yes, you will have sales targets if you're in the majority of these roles, and your bonus will be based upon your sales targets. Absolutely, absolutely, you will have sales targets. Chris, you can go to the next one. Sorry, good day, Mike. I've been seeing OC, Azure, and AWS consulting services, but it's more pro forma sales perspective. Is it possible to grow as a cloud architect? What kind of avenues does it open? I'm not sure I completely understand this question. Do you understand this question, Chris? It's got a lot of jargon, and it's not leading me to talk.
To me, I mean, it sounds like they're trying to. It sounds like they want to know if they can go from selling a singular company's products to selling a actual solution, regardless of the product. So, I've been selling. So the way that I read it, I've been selling a specific company's product. Period. But is it possible to grow into a cloud architect? And as we've discussed, a cloud architect role is not focused on a single vendor. So that's how I interpret it.
Okay, I'm going to try that. So
yeah. That
You know, if you're going from sales to cloud architect, look, I mean, Romanik Ivan Tamba was working as a waiter who got hired as a cloud architect. Delroy Batt was working as an EMT who got hired as a cloud architect. Jeffrey West was working as someone doing some kind of weird imaging of the earth to try and figure out where oil companies could drill, and he got hired as a cloud architect. Coyote was a college student who got hired as a cloud architect. So, of course, you can work as a cloud architect. Now, I want you to understand this. 87% of customers only use a single cloud. 97% of customers use multi-cloud. So the reality is the solution architect roles are dying and are going to die by the day where the cloud architect roles teach it. And the skills are the same, but different. As a cloud architect, you have more career opportunity because you've got the skills to go work at any cloud provider as you want. Anywhere, anytime. So you've got many more options. Now, here's the skills you need to be an architect. BGP, networking skills such as IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, interior gateway protocols such as OSPF and intermediate systems to some degree. Switching things such as VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, like 802.1q versus ISL, even though it should be 802.1q these days for pretty much everything. You should understand of NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT, for any of these roles. WAN technologies, when to use a private line versus a VPN versus an IPsec VPN versus an SSL VPN versus software-defined networking versus SASE versus Ethernet over MPLS, for example. You need to know servers and server virtualization, containers and container orchestration, block storage, object storage, file storage, how to architect it. Databases, when to use a relational database, when to use a NoSQL database. Why can't you use DynamoDB? Why can't you use Google Cloud Bigtable? Why can't you use Azure Cosmos when you need to use multiple clouds? And what can you do instead? What do you do if you've got a need for a NoSQL database and you've got more heavy write traffic than read traffic? What are your options? What's your streaming data things that work in multi-cloud? What kind of firewalls could you use? How do next generation firewalls work? How does an IDS IPS system work, and where does that belong in your architecture? How do you take these virtual appliances and put it in the architecture? That's architect knowledge. Now, the next thing that you use for any of these roles are presentation skills, executive communication skills, the ability to do an ROI model to show the customer the value of the solution is greater than its cost. Constant responding to RFIs, RFPs, RFQs, constant presentations, constant meetings with executives, CEO, CFO, COO, CTO, constant negotiation of sales deals. Those are the skills. And the skills to manage a team of 40 and 50 architects and engineers, which you're going to need to do for every single project. Because there's no one person that designs an architecture. It's a team. It takes a village. After you meet with the customer and you're talking about a big architecture, you're like, whoa. I need these 10 cloud network architects, these 3 cloud security architects, there's 2 IAM architects, and yes, I separated them from security. This database architect, these big data architects. Whoa, and I mean, it's going to go on and on and on. And you're going to need the sales skills to convince the company to give you these resources. You're going to need the leadership skills to make these people want to work, even though they don't work for you, and get them bonused out, etc. And then you're going to have to build design and sell it back to the customer. So those are the skills you need. Rizzo, where do you start? Can you just start with AWS or Azure? Where can you start your CCNA? Well, Rizzo, I used to teach networking at Cisco. I taught networking at WorldCom, which is now Verizon. I taught networking when I was at Knight Securities to network engineers that worked there. I was teaching networking to network engineers at Comcast. I was teaching networking at Riverstone Networks, Nokia now. So I've been teaching it forever. And there's a completely free CCNA course on our YouTube channel. I'd start there for the CCNA. Now, where do you start with AWS? Well, like I said, I recommend you learn the cloud, but we're teaching a completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp all week. Register for it and start with us. We also have a free Azure Bootcamp, the Solutions Architect Expert on our YouTube channel. So learn those 2 things too, but still learn the network and learn the data center. So where should you start? Well, this week we're doing an AWS course, completely free. I'd start with that. And you can start a cloud career with no experience, but again, still dependent upon the job you need. You need to be great at your job, whatever that job may be. And I don't know what job that you even want to be because you haven't told me. So we need to figure that one out first. How deep should you go into networking to be good enough for the interview? Does it have to be expert level design? Look, if you don't understand networking, you don't understand the cloud, period. The cloud is nothing more than a network in a data center, somebody else's. And everything on the cloud means networking. If you don't understand networking, you can't do any design. Nothing, zero. It's kind of like a house. It has a foundation. It's got to be strong. If the foundation of the house is weak, everything comes crumbling down. So how deep you should be able to go into networking? Pretty deep. They might ask you, what type of WAN should you use in a certain environment? They might ask you, what kind of subnets could you use for route summarization? I ask people, tell me how to load share across equal cost links without getting out of order packets. I ask people, tell me why I can't make the cloud as secure as I can in my local data center. Because if they don't understand the networking concept that we can do in the data center, they won't understand anything in the cloud. And if they don't understand the traditional environment, guess what? They can't move it to the new environment. And when you're on the cloud, you can't do QoS and 802.1x, and you can't do layer, and you can't do queuing and all these things that really make the network more high performance and secure than the cloud. You can't do any of it. Because the cloud provider doesn't understand everybody's traffic ahead of time, which it's a shared network, which precludes them from doing these things. So what are your alternatives? How do you make the cloud start to perform almost as good as well? How do you segment your network? Organizations does it via IAM. Do you create multiple VPCs and do routing in between VPCs? How do you make it more secure? Wait, we're doing a lot of VPC stuff. Back to BGP, everybody. Now, how does a BGP route reflector work? You better know that, because if you don't know that, you're going to be lost on those transitive and non-transitive things, and it's going to drive you nuts. So you need to know all of it. Now, WAN, do we bundle it in a link aggregation group? Do we do separate things? How many internet service providers do we need to connect to the internet to have an ideal backup VPN? Now, do I need to, my WAN link, the kind of routers and switches that are chosen to make sure that it works? Yeah, you need to know. You need good networking knowledge. And the things that I'm describing to you are pretty basic. But yeah, well, I say they're basic, but they're far more than the AWS Advanced Networking. And in fact, just that knowledge is probably greater than all 10 AWS certifications combined, which is why I say don't waste your time getting 10x AWS certified. Master your job and learn what you need to. And the knowledge that I gave you can make you $50,000 more in a cloud architect interview than not having that knowledge, if you can get hired even without it. So that's why I want you to have the skills of this job. This job can pay a fortune. I've got graduates earning $300,000 a year, not most of them, but some of them. And that's based upon some experience prior to this and being experts at communicating their skills. But I got to tell you one thing, in order to do that, and I get it, they're looking for a domain expert, a leader, someone with a very unique set of skills and with a very specific brand, not a jack of all trades. Oscar. You do e-commerce management, which is sales, marketing, and light programming and design. A lot of strategy at the executive level. You're very comfortable with CEOs. Can you move to a cloud career? Completely, as long as you're taught architecture. And if most of your strategy is at the director level, you will need to be raise that to CEO strategy. And you'll need to understand the sales process. Now, I don't know if you're doing sales, marketing, and light programming, you're going to need to learn sales. Because right now you're trying to do a lot of stuff. And you need to be able to learn how to sell $1 billion solution. So you'll need sales training, because you're going to have to learn how to build an ROI model, et cetera, which is going to get much deeper than normal sales. Marketing is what to price a product, for example, and how to promote it. That's not what we do here. But there are things from marketing principles that could be good, including things that you may have learned from advertising. How do you make a message and get someone being willing to listen to that message? That could be pretty helpful if you've done the advertising side of marketing. So that's pretty great. And that can be very beneficial to you in your career. Now, what did you do with the CEOs? Did you convince them to buy a $300 million product in the chance? Did you advise them on their corporate strategy? Were they the CEOs of publicly traded companies? Because that's what you're going to be working with here. Of course, you can move to a cloud career. Anybody can move to a cloud career. I've got people who haven't even graduated high school getting jobs as cloud architects at global banks. So of course you can. But here's the thing. You're going to have to learn the skills for that career. That's why we created our cloud architect career development program. Why? It was job-specific training because, everybody else is teaching all the skills of everybody else's careers. We get people out of these master's degree programs in cloud computing, and we cheer them to get hired. We have no choice because they're taught the generic everything, but not enough domain expertise to be good at anything. So, yeah, you can do it. Of course you can. I want you to. Become great at your job, and you will get hired every time. It happens all the time. It takes me about 8 months to take somebody that's never worked in tech to get them their first tech job as a cloud architect, solution architect, on average. Sometimes 10 months, 11 months. But, we do it all the time. And we do it for less than $1,000. Gabenga. I'm prepping for the AWS essay exam and writing the exam this Friday by the grace of God. But I want to know how to do a cloud project so I can present it when I want to get a job, please. Please, which project can I get hands-on so I can prepare my own? Gabenga, I don't know your career. There is no project that you can use for a cloud architect to say, hey, I built this. I'm hands-on experience. Because they want to see designs. Now, a cloud engineer, they might be looking for some projects, which are going to be very different. So what's the job you want? And then we can maybe guide you. But I can't answer that because if I give you this, if you want a cloud architect job and I give you cloud engineering projects, they're not going to be very impressed. They're going to be, oh. So tell me the job and we'll get you there. Chris, while we wait for Gabenga to tell us the career so we can determine projects that look appropriate for his career, let's get to the next one. Lloyd Providers. Where can I write so that I conclude my writing portfolio to my considering I'm a healthcare assistant? Can you share a sample of CVs? So Lloyd Peters, if you want this kind of skill, you can do the following. You can take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, and you'll be taught these skills, and we provide these services to students in our program. Or, and we'll be announcing in the next day, we actually have a really special resume program that we do. And Lloyd, our average student gets between 3 to 15 interview requests per day because of our interview training. And my team is actually going to run a 4-hour resume workshop to, I think it's September 9th, Chris. And on this workshop, I'll teach you how to make your resume. So if you want our help on resumes, you can do the following. You can do the following. You can take our course like that in the future, or you can take our Cloud Architect Career Development Program, or you can book a private session with me. And during this private session, we can go over your resume. But to do that, it's going to be 8 weeks. My ability to take a paid session is about 8 weeks away, given the number of things that I actually do for the community, etc. So we give away all our tech training. Not all our tech training. We give away certification for free. On our channel, you'll see architecture videos, BGP videos, networking videos, the AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate, the AWS Advanced Networking, the Azure Solution Architect Expert, the CCNA. But our special thing is how do we tune a resume? We do this because we know resume writers have a very different background, for example, and may know how to make a resume, but they don't know how to make a resume for an architect or an engineer properly. So we're experts at this, so we do that. So those are the ways that you can actually take the resume training from us. And I'm an expert person on getting people healthcare jobs, given that my background was healthcare. And that's assuming you were asking where you could write us an email for that, for us to do that. If you had a different meaning, which I didn't understand, let me know. Lloyd Peters, how hard is the AWS Solution Architect interview? It's easy for people that know architecture. It's impossible for the 10x AWS certified folks that don't know architecture. So it's all, are you prepared for the interview? How easy it is for a marathon runner to run a mile? It's nothing. They're not even warmed up. How hard is it for someone that's never run in their life to run a mile? It's impossible. For my students, it's nothing. because they're expert architects. At one point, one of the leadership at AWS actually came to one of my classes to say how much and why he personally liked their program and why it looks for people from that program because of the specific way we train them. And the leadership skills, soft skills, communication skills, executive presence, and CXO relevancy. That was a huge part of what he told my class last June. See, Yash, I have 6 months to graduate from college. Interested in working as a cloud architect rather than a developer. Need good cloud knowledge. Can I give you a roadmap to get hired? Sure, take our cloud architect career development program and you'll get cloud hired. Or do the following. Learn the network in the data center. And I'll tell you all those things by coming to our webinar on Thursday, or how to get your first cloud architect job webinar. I will tell you everything you need to know on this webinar. And it'll tell you where to begin. I will cover exactly what is the job, because 99% of the people don't even know what a cloud architect is, even though they think they do. And then we'll talk about what the hiring managers want to see. We'll talk about what needs to be on your resume. I'll tell you the things to learn. It'll be a great time, and then you can come off mute and ask me questions, and it's completely free. So Chow from my team just posted a link to that in the chat box. Fill in that link, and we will help you with your goals, get to your goals, and give you that roadmap. Cash, Mike, I want to become a cloud architect. You were a customer service associate at Amazon. Okay. You have a biotech degree. What should you do transition into the role of the architect? Akash, can an absolute beginner take your course and become a cloud architect? Akash, I had someone that was a shoe salesman at Nordstrom that got hired as a cloud architect, and they didn't even finish high school. I had someone very recently with an associate degree who was an EMT get his first cloud architect job. We had Romanek Ivan Tamba, whose last job was serving food at a restaurant in Atlanta, who's now a solution architect with AWS. We had Coyote, who, guess what, was in college, who got hired as a solution architect with AWS. We had Jeffrey West, who was working in geospatial imaging, who got his first cloud architect job. Of course you can, with the right training. With the wrong training, no, but with the right training, of course you can. So here's what you need to prove to the hiring manager, Akash. They want to know the following. Can you do the job? Which means you got to have the competency skills. They want to know if they can trust you. They want to know, do you know what you know and what you don't know? They want to see your energy, enthusiasm, passion, executive presence, empathy, emotional intelligence. They want to see how hard you're willing to work and whether you're a good team player and how well you can communicate. You do that, you get hired. It happens to our students every day. It's magical. It's magical to us. So of course you can. We'd be honored to train you. You should take the Cloud Architect Career Development Program. I always recommend the live, because in live classes, especially when you're transitioning, it's going to be much easier to see a person. But no matter what, guess what? No matter which course you take, you're going to do great. Even if it's a non-live program. Our students do wonderfully in these programs. It doesn't matter which country you're in. We've got students getting hired in England, India, the US, Canada, it doesn't matter. Australia, New Zealand, all over the place. Germany, UK, I could keep going on. Charity, I want to be a cloud architect. You're an administrative officer for 10 years with no IT knowledge. How do I transition into cloud architect? I actually mentioned it earlier in the video, but we've got a lot of questions. Please join me on a completely free webinar on Thursday. This is what we're going to cover it as following. I will tell you how to show the hiring manager your past experience is relevant. And the administrative officer, there's lots of things that we can take out of that. And I'll tell you what they will be. Then we need to make sure we tune your resume to show your past experience being relevant to your new career. Then we will cover exactly what a hiring manager needs to hire in the dream candidate. Because when you have no experience, you got to be exactly what they dream about. Then we'll teach you, some secrets on the interview while we're at it. We'll teach you what to put on your resume to get your resume seen. We'll teach you how to skip HR so they won't say, sorry, you don't have experience, and you can speak directly to the hiring managers. It'll be lots of fun. And guess what? You'll get to come off mute for our Zoom on an hour. So it'll be a lot of fun, and we'll get you there. Please join the free webinar. And also, tomorrow night, come to the completely free Head in the Cloud podcast. My team will pop a link right now. In there, you'll get to hear with 25-year-old Delroy Bett. And the reason I like to use this is it's much easier for me to get a job for someone in their 30s or 40s or even 50, a cloud architect job, because of the wisdom, etc. Once we have a few gray hairs, people take us more seriously. But when I get some special young people with no background, like Delroy, who was working as an EMT, and he's got his first cloud architect job, and he's super excited about it, he's going to share how he became a cloud architect job, how prior to us, he went on 20 interviews, and nobody was interested in him. How he got hired for his first tech job within 3 weeks of working with us, and then just got hired as a cloud architect. And we did it all with zero experience, all in about a year. He will share his experience, the mistakes he made before he got to us, all the silly things that he tried to learn before us, and why he couldn't pass the interview, and how we were able to get them by making him an expert at his job, his first cloud security architect job. And you'll love the kid. I do. Came visit me in Florida one point. He's truly, truly amazing. Great heart, great mind, great focus. And I'm so excited and proud of him. Chris, you can go to the next one. Mike, as a solution architect, what are the main things one needs to focus on to be best at it? The network and the data center, and then your leadership skills, your sales skills, your communication skills, your executive presence, your business acumen, your presentation skills. So a couple of my guys who have recently been hired, and also I recently had a mental health professional recently get their first cloud architect job, again, their first tech job. And, you know, I'm going to tell you this right now. What gets you hired is your presentation skills, your sales skills, your attitude, energy, enthusiasm, etc. So make sure you've got strong network and data center and cloud design skills, because they will ask you to design. But understand, you will need to deliver a presentation to get hired. You will need to sell them why they need to hire you. You will need to show extraordinary leadership skills. You will need to show exceptional communication skills and business relevancy. And can you communicate simply and effectively without using a bunch of jargon and buzzwords? Because nobody hires you for these roles if that's part of it. That's what you need to show them. So, communication skills. In fact, you could get these jobs, I truly believe, on communication skills and leadership skills, on the network and data center knowledge. And how do I believe this? I've seen it every single day. I'm going to tell you this. Those people that have better communication skills and leadership skills are going to get hired faster than people with better technical skills. And I'm going to tell you the most critical skills for the cloud architect is actually the communication skills. And we don't code, we don't configure. So why do I say communication skills are the most critical skills for the cloud architect? Guess what? They're the most critical skills for a doctor. They're the most critical skills for an accountant. They're the most critical skills for a lawyer. And they're the most critical skills for a management consultant. Why? Here's the thing. We're not engineers. Nobody hands us a piece of paper and say, builds this. So what happens? We have to go to the customer and ask about their business, ask the right questions, and get the right information. So our ability to communicate to the customer, to have that customer see us as an expert and credible and powerful, the ability to get the right requirements from them and get them talking, then determines your design. I'm not a programmer, but I've been in tech now forever. And when I started working in tech as a network engineer 25 years ago, there was a saying by the programmers, and I really loved it, and they said, garbage in and garbage out. Bad information in, bad information out. Where do architectures fail? When an engineer tries to talk to the customer and can't speak the same language as the customer. They don't have the business acumen, and they start spewing buzzwords to the executives. The executives have no idea what the engineers are talking about. Meanwhile, the architects are talking about the business people are talking about their compound annual growth rate and the revenue and increasing employer productivities. And if the cloud architect does not have that business acumen and the communication skills, they can't speak the same language. I'm going to tell you, I speak half English and half Greek in my life. And if I go to my village in Greece, and it's a wonderful village, super nice people, but there's only 5,000 people in the village, and I say, hi, everybody, how are you today? For the most part, they're going to look at me like this. If I say, Dikanis, pos isa, Semada. Then they spoke to me. I like to speak to people in their same language. So the communication skills are the most critical for the architect. Great question. Chris, let's go to the next one. What is the usual format for a cloud architect interview? There's usually a screen from the hiring manager, and it's really like, do I like you? Can I work with you? Can I tolerate you? From there, next, there's typically a technical interview. From there, there's typically a meet with some business leaders interview. And from there, there's typically a presentation. And that's typically the flow for most cloud architect job interviews. Kristen, go to the next one. Clouds to the moon, Cloud Hard, thank you for this info. You are so more than welcome. And from Twitch, fantastic. It's our first day on Twitch. And you have the most beautiful tabby cat. Oh my God, that cat is absolutely beautiful. I have a cat named Cindy. Chris, if you had the ability to share her photo, that looks just like that cat. And also, Abigail from my team has a cat named Noni that also looks just cute like that. So I am so happy you're here. Welcome from Twitch. Anything we can do, Cloud Hard, and you're so welcome. And I'm excited to have our first Twitch visitors. And I love that cat. He or she is a very beautiful cat. My cat Cindy looks the same. Oh, what a beautiful cat. Taipen, do you have a mechanism for us to donate a GoCloud prescription to someone in need? Yes, on rare occasions, we have someone that wants to purchase a subscription for somebody else, Ty. It happens to us all the time. Email us at info@gocloudcareers.net, and my team will know exactly what to do. They will reach out to the person. They will do what's necessary, and then they will automatically enroll the person. So please send an email to info@gocloudcareers.net, Ty, and we'd love to work with you to help get somebody else their best career. Cash, you got all the answers. I'm wonderful. I'm so happy. And Mike, what time are your live classes? Well, it depends on the program. Our cloud architect courses are, architects are excellent, on Tuesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is 2 p.m. UK time. And then we have one on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which turns into 9 p.m. UK time. And we have one on Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, which is 5 p.m. UK time. And note, I say UK time instead of GMT because sometimes we're at different daylight savings times versus non-daylight savings times, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the times. Why do we have these times? I'm going to tell you right now. We've got a tremendous number of students in the Americas, North America, meaning Canada, US, and South America. We've got a tremendous number of students in England and Europe, and we have a lot of students in Africa. And these time zones work best for this population. We do have students in India who stay up very late or watch part of a class and then the rest. We have plenty of students in Pakistan and Asia and Australia and New Zealand. Some of those courses are pretty hard for them, but I had a student in New Zealand just got hired. Just the other day. A student in Australia got hired last week. So, you know, the students make it. It's not an easy schedule for the people in Asia, but, you know, we make it work. We're together. We're a family, and we do everything we can to get everybody hired. Thank you for the question. Is there international exams included in your course? Is this the price, or do I have to pay for them separately? Our course is for us to train you. If you want to go take somebody else's certifications, we're not related to these organizations. Now, some organizations have free certifications. Oracle's is free, and I'm pretty sure the Azure certification is free. AWS charges for them. So, you know, which one of those you take doesn't matter to us. As long as we recommend the AWS, Azure, or Google, but you know, we're not them. We train architects. We teach architect skills. but we don't work with the certification bodies to say, here, I got a student that wants a course, how do we pay for it? That's not what we do. We train architects. Chris, you can go to the next one. Hello, Mike. There are 7 different cloud architecture specialists like data architecture, AI, ML. Are these roles within the scope of a regular cloud architect? Not at all. And here's the thing. When you're talking about data architectures, this is not a cloud architect. This is a data architect. And I'm going to promise you right now, just learning AI and learning AML will never, ever, ever get you a job like this. Now, James T., for the people that are interested in big data like this, you're talking a combination between a data scientist, and you need a PhD for the most part in advanced math, like statistical analysis to some degree, calculus. These are people that have a big background in knowing how to take data, how to massage data, how to aggregate data. All right, big details in there. These are then people that know when do I use TensorFlow versus PyTorch versus SageMakers. What are the strengths and weaknesses of each approach? What kind of model do I need? Why am I creating a model? What are the inferences I'm trying to glean from the model? This is a separate career in itself. Now, James, I'm going to tell you something else. Data architects and data scientists are some of the lowest paid technology professionals, despite needing the most sophisticated education in the world. And these jobs are the hardest to get. How hard are they? I'm going to tell you this right now. I've had 2 people come through my program that had gone through extremely expensive data science boot camps. Extremely smart people, analytical people, people that had all the skills. Hired one of them, and the other person I trained and is now working as a cloud engineer. The reason they came to us is as follows. These are incredibly smart, powerful, wonderful people that didn't realize how hard it was to get one of these jobs. So, no, AI/ML architecture is a totally different specialty, one that requires an incredible degree of sophistication. And that actually may or may not even be architecture in and of itself, because that field, again, gets into that world where people there need to know some R and Python. They might be scraping information from somewhere. It's a much more technical job than these architecture roles. Get an architect like me, and they say, hey, we're going to do some AI. And it's like, okay, I need 3 data scientists, please. And I'm not hiring somebody that's an AWS certified architect to do this. I'm going to look for someone with the skills. I'm going to be pulling one of those data scientists and say, hey, how does this stuff actually work? And then I'll work with some other people to design it. Chris, I don't have a lot of time, but I can probably do 1 or 2. Akash, I am in India. Upon checking of the job protocols, hiring companies ask for 5 to 7 years. Can a fresher get trained before you guys crack an interview? Akash, I just told you and give you 4 examples. And I have students in India. You will hear on Tuesday night from Delroy, whose first tech job was us. And we helped him. You can watch Daniel Bosu, who didn't graduate high school even, who got hired as a cloud architect. You can hear from Coyote, who was hired by AWS with no experience. You can hear from Romanek Ivan Chambo, who was serving food in his last job. Very soon, you'll hear from one of my students who was a behavioral health technician. So every job wants 10 years experience. If it only says 5 to 7 years experience, they usually want 10 to 20. Cash, the first job I went on, they wanted 12 years experience. You know how much they had? 0. And I got hired immediately. The next job I went on, they wanted 20 years experience. You know how much they had? 6 months. The key is, do you have the skills to be hired? I don't really worry about what's on a job portal. Here's why I don't worry. I ask hiring managers, what do you really care about? And I ask recruiters to get to the hiring managers, what do you really care about? I don't worry about what somebody that doesn't have the job has because they don't know better. They don't even know what they don't know. So I don't know. I can tell you we get our students hired every single day following our program. We don't worry about that. Why? Because I've been an architect. I know what it is. How do I get my information? I ask the people, what would you like in the cloud architect? You know how many people I've asked and hiring managers I've asked over the years? Over 5,000. Why? I have the data of what people really want. So no, I don't worry about a cut and paste job description. Akash, you know what my job descriptions are going to look like? Here, I'm not a paperwork guy. I'm a designer. Here's what I do. Let me go to this job posting site. This looks remarkably comprehensive. Hey, wait, this doesn't have any of the scales that I need. Let me pop them in. And you know what the next person does on a job site? They take the first one, which was a cut and paste job description. I added mine. Now the thing's like 30 pages long, asking for 10 Olympic gold medals, etc. And now they take mine and they add their stuff because none of my stuff's relevant. That's what a job is. So I don't worry about that. Okay, so I think we've run to the limitation of the time that we can go today. I want to remind you of a few furry things that we're doing. This week, all week, we're going to have the completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate Bootcamp. Tomorrow night, come talk to Delray and hear how he got his first cloud security architect, how he went from 20 interviews working as an EMT and never getting hired by anybody to us helping get him his first cloud architect job with, guess what? No background before we trained him. And so you'll get to interview a cloud hired student tomorrow. Ask him your questions. Ask him exactly how he did it. Ask him if he can code, and he'll tell you he can't. Ask him if he told you that the managers wanted 10 years experience and if they cared that he had none. Ask him. Ask any of my successful students. Ask them. Those that are already hired. Ask them. And then ask them why what we did was different than everybody else's and why we got their work. And how did I learn how to create a system to get people with no experience hired? Well, here's the thing. I used to practice internal medicine, and I wanted to get my first cloud architect job. And in order to do that, I had to do these things myself. So now you know. And why I had to deal with this 25 years ago, and why I've spent 20 years helping others get their first tech job. I get promoted in tech. So join us in our completely free AWS Certified Solution Architect Bootcamp this week. Join us on Thursday for the How to Get Your First Cloud Architect Job webinar. And if you want to increase the knowledge that you're getting, follow me on LinkedIn. And we're going to have so much more content, so many more articles that we'll be posting through that channel. So sign up. If you haven't subscribed and subscribed, please do so. If you haven't hit the like button, please like it, our video. And that way more people can see what we do. Thank you all so much for your help. I hope to see all of you in this week's free training. I hope to see some of you, and I can see a lot of people already signed up for our internal training, so we can get you cloud hired, cloud hired, cloud hired. And don't forget to take advantage of our 30% off discount code. Use coupon code potential. Why do I put it up again? Here's the reason. I saw the inflation numbers. I know most people are struggling financially, and I want to help you. So temporarily, we cut our costs to try to help you get to your goals. Thank you, everybody. Get cloud hired, everybody.